Hi, lovely booktubers. Welcome or welcome back. This is Reid Stuff. I am Debs. I hope you're having a good weekend. It is currently Sunday morning. I've just put my washing out and it started raining. That's annoying. Never mind. I shall carry on doing this. I did a video on Friday about Shortyseptember, which is organised by Bert and Sian at Past Story Times and Heather at Soggy Expat Book Nerd. I've been reading quite a lot for those over this last week. After Garb August, which was brilliant and I loved it, I thought this month I'll just do some mood reading. Then I found Shortyseptember and I thought short books, that would be fun. So I'm hooking short books off my shelf left, right and centre. I'm also taking part in Historathon 2023, which is the brainchild of then Revenant Reid's, and the current quarter, which obviously ends at the end of September, is the time period 1500 until 1820, and so we're reading history books about anything within that time period. And I thought that was enough. And then I came across Shaketember, which is obviously reading Shakespeare. Now, Shaketember is organised by Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and Nicole at A Day of Small Things. And I thought, well, those also tie in with Shortyseptember, because that's books under 200 pages, and quite a few of the plays are less than that. They're reading Romeo and Juliet, Antony and Cleopatra, and Richard III. So I thought I would read Richard III because that also ties in with the right time period for Historathon. That all made perfect sense to me. So I'm partway through that. For Historathon, I am partway through this, which is Shakespeare's Restless World by Neil McGregor, which is, it's like a history of Elizabethan times told through 20 different objects, and it's really interesting. I'm partway through that, and that sort of also ties in with Shaketember. And then I am also partway through this, which is brilliant, and I want to finish before the end of the month, Black Tudors by Miranda Kaufmann, and we are talking about Tudors who were not enslaved to anybody in Tudor times, were either free men or servants, or they weren't owned by anybody. It's really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying that. Now, if that wasn't enough, I then came across something called Strayaseptember, which is a new event, and it is organised by Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and it's all about reading Australian authors. Now that ties in with my personal round the world reading project, but also I'd already read a book by an Australian author called The Tintookies and Little Fella Bindi by Peter Scriven for Shortyseptember. So I thought, why not? Why not? This event has, well, you can either just read an Australian author and that's it, you've taken part, or there's another option where there are 4 prompts. 1 is to read a book by an Australian author. 2 is to read a book by an Indigenous author. The third one is to read a book by someone who has emigrated to Australia. And the fourth one is to read a book by someone who is based in a different state or territory to the others that you've read. So, my reading for this week it's been quite varied. I read The Sea-gull by Anton Chekhov for Shortyseptember. I'll probably tell you what I thought of that in the next Shortyseptember wrap-up. And then I read the most incredible book that had been recommended by Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And it was just beautiful. As well as doing a launch video for that event, he also did a video where he recommended quickfire recommendations, 30 different Australian authors that you might like to read as part of this challenge. And I am just looking up the ones I purchased ebooks because a lot of them were really quite expensive to order physical copies, and I'm getting more into the ebooks now. So I purchased The White Girl by Tony Birch, which I haven't started yet. Love and Virtue by Diana Reid, which I haven't started yet. And When Things Are Alive, They Hum by Hannah Bent, which was just the most heartwarming and heartrending read. It was beautiful. This is a book by an immigrant author, an Australian immigrant. She was born, I think she might have been born in England, but she was brought up in Hong Kong. And now lives and works in Australia. It's about two sisters, one of whom has Down syndrome. So one sister, it's the youngest sister who has Down syndrome. Her name is Harper and she's 20. She also has a heart defect and has had many, many operations over the years and has now got to the stage where no further operations can be undertaken, and the only hope for her is to have a heart and lung transplant. The trouble is, no one will put her on the transplant list because she has a disability. And this is told from the point of view of the two sisters. Do you know, I can't remember the other one's name. Bear with me. Isn't that awful? I loved this book. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Marlowe. I knew it was Marlowe. So Marlowe is currently studying for a PhD in England when she hears that Harper has become seriously ill. And so she returns home, and home in this case is Hong Kong, to try and work out a solution that's going to save her sister. And she tries to get the media involved in the injustice that is refusing to put Harper on a transplant list. But this is just such a poignant story. It's beautifully written. The author, Hannah Bent, has a sister with Down syndrome. And I don't think that this book could have been written by anyone who doesn't have that relationship. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because I actually have that relationship, not with a sister, but with two brothers. both of my brothers have Down syndrome, and although they are, neither of them are as high functioning as Harper is portrayed to be in this book, reading the words that were coming from Harper, they made me smile in so many places, because it was just the sort of logic that my brothers have, and I don't think anyone who hadn't been in a very close relationship with someone who had Down syndrome would appreciate that. That's just my opinion. But genuinely, I think that's true. I think this book could only have been written by somebody who had that sort of relationship. And it's so beautifully done. Um, it's about love. It's about relationships. It's about letting people think for themselves. It's about not making decisions for other people when they're capable of making them themselves. And it made me laugh. It made me sad. And I just cannot thank Scott enough for the recommendation, because it was brilliant. In my family, in case you're wondering why I have two Down syndrome brothers, I am the eldest. My brother is my eldest brother is 2 years younger than me. Then I have a sister, and then when I was about 10 and my youngest brother was about 3, my parents adopted him. So yeah, pretty chaotic family, really. Good fun though. Now, the final book I read this week was by a booktuber that I follow, Katie Lumsden, at Books and Things. It's called The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, and it is a gothic mystery thriller, historical thriller, and I loved it. I really loved it. Margaret, our main character, is recently widowed. Her husband has left her with no money. That it wasn't really the greatest match. There is a mystery, or could there be a mystery? There is a mystery surrounding his death. She was a former governess, and she finds herself in need of earning a living. So she takes a position looking after a 10-year-old boy called Louis at a place called Hartwood Hall. She is engaged by the lady of the house, Mrs. Evesham, and it's an odd place. The doors are heavily locked. There are very few servants. There are secrets there that Margaret just can't get her head round. Louis is a lovely lad, and she gets on with him brilliantly and starts to teach him, but one wing of the house is closed up, ostensibly because it's damaged and needs repair work. There is no Mr. Evesham. There is a cook. There is a butler. We have a housekeeper, and there's a couple of other maids and a gardener. But no one comes to the hall, and no one visits, and no one goes out of the hall for day trips or anything. And yet Mrs. Evesham disappears for periods of time, and Margaret doesn't know where she is. I found this to be really atmospheric, and one of the things I liked about it was that I didn't expect the end. It wasn't formulaic. I liked the atmosphere. I liked the way the characters were drawn. I tried part ways through to guess what was going on. I got part way there, but definitely not all the way there. In fact, I think part way there is a bit of an exaggeration, to be honest. It kept me gripped. It kept me gripped. I loved Katie's writing style. I just really enjoyed it. It's currently on, I think I got it on in ebook. It's not out until next year in paperback. I don't buy hardback fiction, but I will be buying this in paperback when it comes out because it's something I want to have on my bookcase and it's something I would read again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's it, I think, for this week. Having said I wasn't going to do any reading events I'm taking part in for, but they're all really good fun. And you've got to enjoy it, haven't you? Really. I mean, that's the whole point. You read for enjoyment, and I'm enjoying them. And so, what does it matter if I'm taking part in 4 reading events this month? Thank you for watching. I shall be back soon with another video. If you'd like to like, subscribe, either or, great. Comment on anything you disagree with, if you've read the books I've read, if you like the books I've read, if you've got other suggestions for me to read, love to hear from you. Thank you very much for popping by and enjoy the remains of the weekend. Bye for now.